I discovered my husband in our family room with my son's bride-to-be mere hours before the ceremony. I was on the verge of bursting in and facing him down, but a subtle shift in the corridor made me pause. It was my son, Daniel. His expression was like carved marble. He met my gaze and murmured, "Mom, I've known for a while, and it's far more twisted than you realize. Greetings to all of you tuning in. I'm so grateful you're spending this time with me. Before I dive into the tale, I'd be thrilled to hear where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments if you like. All right, let's get lost in this narrative together." On the dawn of my son's big day, I stirred awake at 5 in the morning. Sleep had evaded me completely. I convinced myself it was typical parental anxiety, the sort that grips any mom facing such a milestone. I settled into this familiar study at home, gazing blankly at financial reports on my monitor. I operate a modest accounting practice right here from the house. It's not luxurious, but it funded Daniel's university tuition and bridged the gaps where my husband Thomas's income fell short. The figures danced incoherently before me. My thoughts wandered far afield. Beyond the window, the night lingered, quiet and unmoving, yet I could envision the setup unfolding on our backyard terrace in our Charlotte, North Carolina residence in mere hours. Ivory seats lined up flawlessly across the grass. I devoted the whole season to cultivating the trellis Thomas had constructed, draping it with climbing vines I'd raised from fragile shoots. I'd inspected the fairy lights 4 times over, ensuring every glow was intact. Perfection was non-negotiable. Our boy, Daniel, merited nothing less than an impeccable celebration. A quarter-century wed to Thomas, over 2 decades nurturing Daniel. My existence had revolved around this household. I'd been the reliable anchor, the organizer, the keeper of medical checkups and anniversaries, the guardian of timely payments. Thomas was the entertainer, the crowd, pleaser, adored by all. I provided the stability he relied upon, and for ages that sufficed. Lately, though, an unease had crept in. A quiet rift widened between us. It showed in how he'd clam up upon my entry into a space, how his device was perpetually angled from view. When probed, he'd brush it off with a chuckle. "Merely job stress, darling," he'd claim, "a major advancement in sight." I opted to trust him. How could I discard 25 years over a hunch? The soft snap of the study door yanked me back. There stood Daniel in his sleepwear, clutching a steaming cup. He appeared drained, shadows pooling beneath his eyes. At his stage in life, he mirrored my sensible demeanor, but inherited his dad's striking looks. "You've been awake forever, Mom," he noted. "The event doesn't kick off until late afternoon. I simply crave flawlessness for my guy." I replied, forcing an upbeat grin while shutting my computer. "Your father hasn't stirred yet. He headed out early." Daniel mentioned, a peculiar edge to his tone. He approached and perched on my desk's corner, abruptly seeming so youthful. He mentioned grabbing a present for Olivia's folks, the Harringtons. I furrowed my brow. That detail was fresh to me. "Mom," he ventured, pausing, "may I pose a question?" I swiveled to face him. Beneath the stark desk illumination, his concern shone brightly. "What's troubling you, dear?" He inhaled deeply. "Do you believe Olivia truly cares for me?" The inquiry struck like a blow to my core. Olivia, his intended, driven, and stunning, an emerging designer from an affluent, established lineage with clout. Outwardly, she embodied all we'd hoped for Daniel. Yet I'd harbored reservations. I'd observed her gaze wander as Daniel shared his enthusiasms, how she'd glance at her screen amid family meals. "What prompts that, sweetheart? It's your special day." "I realize, and perhaps it's mere pre-wedding nerves," he muttered, fixated on his brew. "But occasionally, when she regards me, it's as if I'm invisible, like I'm merely a milestone on her path to an ideal existence." He halted, "And recently, she's been around Dad a lot. They discuss money matters, stocks. She claims he's guiding her. I yearned to reveal my own observations. How Thomas's eyes trailed Olivia across chambers. How he'd invent reasons to assist with her jacket or top off her beverage. How he recalled her coffee preference precisely. Double cream, no sugar, without inquiry. Rather, I extended my hand and clasped his. Pre-ceremony butterflies are standard, love. Tying the knot is life's grandest leap. It's beyond butterflies, Mom, he countered, his tone fracturing. He lifted his gaze, eyes brimming with an agony that chilled me. I suspect she's enamored with another. I stiffened, chills racing through me. What leads you to that? Subtle cues. He breathed. How she brightens at Dad's ringtone, how she inquires about him first upon arrival. I spotted them in the yard yesterday, conversing intimately, and his glance toward her, it wasn't paternal. A warmth climbed my throat. I steadied my speech. Daniel, that's a grave claim. I'm aware, he admitted, shoulders sagging, and I pray I'm mistaken. Lord, I pray. Ere I could respond, the door swung anew. Thomas entered, clad in a crisp button-down and trousers, ever polished. Behold my cherished duo, he proclaimed, his grin faltering short of sincerity. He appeared startled by Daniel's presence. Momentous occasion, kid, time to prep. He shifted to me. And you, Rebecca, you'll exhaust yourself. Olivia rang. She's dropping by at 10 to tweak the seating lay. Outlast. Minute. I noted Daniel's jaw tense. What tweaks? He queried. Oh, ensuring her kin avoid your Aunt Clara post that holiday debate on economics. Thomas dismissed airily. Her lineage is esteemed. Best handle it discreetly due to sensitivities. Naturally, Daniel intoned flatly, can't mingle the unfit. The atmosphere thickened palpably. Observing my spouse and offspring, I sensed profoundly that Daniel spoke truth. A dire flaw marred our midst. Once Thomas and Daniel departed the study, a frigid apprehension gripped me. I had a pending discussion with the florist at 11, meticulously scheduled. I dialed, fingers unsteady, and postponed, citing a household crisis. Fabricated, of course, my schedule was vacant. Daniel's revelations lingered, as did the queasy vibe from Thomas's feigned joviality. Turmoil brewed in my abode today. For the initial span in 25 years, I resolved to unearth it. The ensuing hours I feigned occupation. I polished the already gleaming countertops, adjusted the vase arrangements on the sideboard. Each noise startled me. Every vehicle passing accelerated my pulse. I embodied the joyous groom's mother externally, while inwardly I writhed in torment. Precisely at 10, a glossy silver sedan eased into our drave Olivia's vehicle. From the kitchen pane, I beheld her emergence. Even in casual attire, she exuded magazine elegance. She strode to the entrance with innate assurance, as if ownership was hers. My heartbeat thundered. I slipped out the rear exit, skirted the structure, hunching beneath the expansive lilac shrubs framing our family room vistas. Absurd, spying in my domain, yet the compulsion to verify or refute overwhelmed. Via the broad window, I spied them. Thomas admitted her, positioned near the mantel, site of annual holiday portraits. He offered a beverage, auditory details escaped, but postures screamed volumes, proximity excessive. His palm grazed her lower spine, a gesture dismissible, yet it persisted unduly. My fists balled, nails biting skin. 25 years forging existence here. We'd recited tales to Daniel on that couch, hosted myriad gatherings therein. Now my mate caressed another, my child's betrothed, on his nuptial eve. I poised to charge, heedless of spectacle or event. Sole focus, searing disloyalty unveiled, yet a silhouette in the upper passage reflection halted me. Peering intently, Daniel atop the steps, veiled in gloom, observed likewise. His immobile, shattered form froze me. This anguish wasn't solitary. His too, below, matters intensified. Olivia's fingers rested on Thomas's torso. She inclined toward him, chin uplifted, lips curved playfully. She uttered something. He chuckled. a melody absent from our exchanges for eons. Buoyant, authentic, joyful, reminiscent of our youthful days when horizons boundless. In that instant, my spouse morphed into a stranger, vibrant in ways long dormant with me. Then his digits entwined her locks, lips merging. Not fleeting, a profound, fervent embrace, cinematic in passion. Vision crimsoned, ears roared, I advanced, primed to shatter entry, bellow till voiceless. A grasp seized my limb. Whirling, terror surging, Daniel confronted me. He'd exited stealthily, pallid visage, yet eyes ablaze with unyielding resolve unseen prior. Mom, hold off. He urged, strain evident. Not now, Daniel. This is, words choked. I comprehend, he affirmed. Tone firm despite quivering limbs. Mom, I've suspected weeks. Weeks, uttered as hushed gasp. I gaped at my offspring, the lad I'd reared, now bearing a veteran's gaze. Still concealed amid lilacs I'd cherished, now shields for familial ruin. Indoors, my husband and sons intended relocated to the city, gaze unbearable. Denial gripped me initially. Daniel confided, tone hushed and pressing. Rationalizations abounded. He's merely courteous. She's anxious about integration, yet patterns persisted. The prolonged stares, secluded chats, her glow in his vicinity. He faltered, the error, poignant echo of vanished reality. She sought a maternal bond, not adversary. Olivia, why conceal? I queried, quaking with astonishment and fierce safeguard. You bore this solo. Proof essential, he declared, mandible set, and he regarded me, eyes aged beyond 20. 3. I aim to furnish ample leash for self-defense. Nerment. He retrieved his mobile, digits unsteady on display. I enlisted aid, he admitted. What, I'm no fool, Mom. Post-spotting their midday meal a month past. A purported professional session for him. Shopping excursion for her. I affirmed sanity. Truth imperative, he proffered the device, retained a detective, breath faltered, investigator, Daniel, the expense, dismiss cost, he retorted darkly, priceless. Initial image depicted Thomas and Olivia entering the upscale Omni Hotel in town. Dated 3 weeks prior, Tuesday noon, when Thomas allegedly attended a district summit. Subsequent shot, exiting disarrayed 2 hours hence. 17 instances. Daniel murmured as I navigated treachery's album. Dim eateries citywide, pressed against his auto in secluded lot, laughing, clasped hands, alternate existence concealed, nausea surged, deception's scale astounding, not impulse, deliberate, enduring liaison. I rose afresh, fury renewed. We halt this. Immediately. No. Daniel's command compelled recoil. Mom, heed me. Strategy in place. Strategy, Daniel. Madness. Can't permit the union precisely. We shall. He interjected, authority resonant, novel. Mom, ponder, confront now. Denial ensues, distortion. Dad deems you erratic, misinterpreting. Olivia weeps, victimizes. Reversal upon us, valid. Envision Thomas's suave placation. Rebecca, exaggeration, she's apprehensive youth, paternal counsel offered, then propose, I hissed, wrath yielding to stark lucidity. Daniel's grin chilled, alien, exposure public, he uttered, words suspended. Utter reputational annihilation, judicial repercussions, not mere cessation. Ensure recurrence impossible, regarded my son, whence this cunning mercilessness, glanced window ward, beheld my life. Partner unfastening Olivia's garment on our familial seat. That vista slain the lenient spouse of yore, perished amid soil neath blooms I'd tenderly sown. Detail the scheme I commanded, that twilight proved bizarre. Thomas returned, normality feigned, querying menu finals. Olivia departed earlier. He epitomized devoted mate, elated parent, expounded on his toast, Daniel's pride, hypocrisy suffocating. I nodded, grinned, hollow vessel, inwardly shrieking. Post Thomas's slumber, Daniel and I convened in study. Bolted entry, shaded panes, akin to command center aptly so. Desk bore evidence dossier, prosecutorial delight, elaborate on the sleuth. I urged scrutinizing nauseating snapshot, her name's Laura, Daniel revealed. Laura Hayes. A revelation splashed coldly. Laura, my sibling. Laura, Daniel affirmed. Uncertain alternatives. Aware she'd policed 2 decades pre-retirement, launching inquiry firm. Sharp, confidential. He appeared abashed. Also, she never warmed to Dad. I emitted laugh like, dear sister Laura, bonded yet eyed with held marital drift from pride, shame of potential collapse. I'll contact her. I vowed, emotion thick. Laura picked up swiftly. Rebecca, midnight past, all well. No, Laura, not is. Floodgates burst. Recounted Daniel's suspicions, witnessed mourn images, wept raw for day's premiere. She absorbed, composure steadfast. No astonishment, mere solemn acknowledgement. Not shocked, Rebecca. She murmured post-tale, noted his gaze on that woman, hoped error. Daniel shared pics, I noted, dabbing eyes. What further, more than desired? Tone professionalized, tracked 3 weeks, bi-weekly trysts at Omni, cash settled, lavish diners untaken with you, week prior to high, end jeweler, rage flared, our funds meticulously stewarded, retirement, tomorrow's cash. And Rebecca, Laura softened, deeper now, grave, probed Thomas's finances for cash origins, hotels, trinkets, careless, uncovered, dreaded response, prolonged hush, beyond Olivia, waited, not debut. Unearthed recurring transfers 15 years, identical recipient, Emily Carter, name unfamiliar, who dug, junior colleague at prior employer Daniel Juvenile, abrupt exit 15 back, payments commenced shortly. Laura inhaled, Rebecca, daughter 15, Sophia, background check, paternity unlisted but wager license, Thomas father, device weighted, breathless, offspring, concealed kin, 15 years duplicity, dual existence. Mystery jaunts, odd outlays, detachment, crystallized horrifically. Confirm essential, Laura, I breathed. Understood, she assured. Manage it, but Rebecca, brace. Detonation atomic, aware, I iced, precisely anticipated. Preceding day's ceremony haze of feigned normalcy. Navigated prep spectral, automated whilst mind whirled. Beamed at kin. Endorsed final decor with coordinator. Even knotted Thomas's tie, digits grazing fabric envisioning constriction. Exchanges performative, courtesies false, Laura expedited, professional, now intimate, contact at discreet lab, risky, Rebecca, but Franklin's DNA sample yields preliminary match to girls. Nightly, Thomas snoring adjacent in shared bed quarter century, I slunk. Pulse echoed floor creaks, bathroom seized toothbrush, tremor nearly fumbled ultimate breach, yet versus his infractions, bagged mailbox deposited preed. On for Laura, morrow abode humming florists shutterbugs, Laura rang. Financials worsened, convened vehicle street, parked secure, laptop pivoted, spreadsheet, numerals, timelines dizzying. Analyze joint holdings, nest egg all, she indicated highlighted. Pattern evident. Years, incremental cash pulls, 500, 7,000 cap, varied locales. Assumed pastime, stunned. Claimed antique collectibles necessitating cash, deception. Pastime dubbed Olivia, Laura quipped dryly. Funds, sweets, feasts, baubles, that jewel pendant, half cash but Dyerst, tab switch, loans versus pension, screened black, white, serial borrowings from diligently amassed fund, safeguard twilight security. Drained near 70 grand 18 months. How, signature requisite, forged Laura quiet, matched docs to filings, skilled mimic not yours, sickness wave, beyond infidelity, theft. Dismantling future fragmentally funding sordid romance. Pilfering tuition reserves shared vision, wagering my destiny, and Olivia barely voiced, no victim Laura hardened, address her but first, hesitation manila envelope proffered, DNA prelim morn, hands quaked opening. Jargon blurred to base, paternity likelihood 99. 999%, words seared, Sophia Carter, Thomas's progeny, 15 years adoring, confiding, constructing whilst he harbored kin shadowed, head on wheel, leather cooling fevered brow. Tearless beyond, eerie calm descended, ache persisted, cavernous thoracic gash, yet joined by resolve frigid, unyielding, lost transcended spouse total, vehicular with sibling, parchment-weighted tomb, like. Matrimonial demise cert presumed life 15-year daughter echoed confined how located distanced voice mine Laura pity professional commenced payments Emily Carter easy trace neighboring suburbs Rebecca 20 miles 15 years covert proximate late labors dinners corporate golf weekends mentally catalogued pretexts each sinister anew. Drove residents yesterday, Laura proceeded softly. Posed surveyor, Emily answered, behind Sophia, Rebecca, his replica, identical keen eyes first captivated me, grin same, undeniable, pictured, adolescent mirroring spouse, sibling Daniel unaware, surreal, monstrous, unprocessable. Emily aware me, Daniel, unsure, Laura conceded, lifestyle, comfy abode, prime education, modest vocation, Thomas mainstay, incentive silence, not support mere, lifestyle subsidy our coin, my enterprise, communal hoard, pilfered retirement. Betrayal stratified profoundly, drowning sensation, life's labor, faith, tomorrow plundered, envelope returned Laura, file with rest, numb, emotionless, shock profound, anesthetized save hollow chill. Contemplated Sophia, man denying offspring, raising son illuminated, child obscured, cruelty, to me, Daniel, blameless girl, staggering, Olivia, shifted, latching ire thawing Venice ice, Laura nodded stern. Indeed bride-to-be, laptop file anew, not mere liaison, siphoning firm funds, registered delayed, junior exec posh agency, Laura explicated, internals displayed, padded reimbursements, phantom bills ghost consultants, funneled private account. Incremental, steady, year, over quarter, million pilfered, gasped, quarter, million, trace portions direct Thomas gifts, Laura showed transfer, statement, $1,000 timepiece, firm theft funding paramour gifts, he thieving wife funding hers. Deceit cycle exquisitely vile, Olivia transcended destroyer, felon, larcenist, poised wed son, importing wrought remnant family, thoracic numbness evaporated, fury incandescent, beyond heartbreak, safeguard son. Justice ensured duo confronted every falsehood, dollar vow fractured, all right, met sister's gaze, ceremony scheme, rehearse once more, flawless imperative, Olivia's theft injected criminal veneer atop betrayal stunning. Transformed, no mere emotional tangle, fraud conspiracy by supposed intimates, how procured, pointed damning dock screen, still vehicular, air-dense plot, tepid Java, Olivia overconfident, Laura satisfied grimly. Sloppy, police allies bent rules hearing saga, fraud squad pal-eyed patterns, recognized instantly, screen pointed, routed via dummy entity maternal birth name, novice, thought Olivia's kin, Harringtons. Community stalwarts, father esteemed circuit justice, mother charity panels, circles repute paramount, deemed daughter ascendant, allying solid clan, ignorant golden child's crook, solid clan illusion lies. Humiliation public devastate them too, fleeting sympathy, innocence collateral, swiftly doused own betrayal blaze. Thus Thomas Raid's retirement gifting mistress, I recapped, venomous, Olivia firm. Thefts gifting my spouse, lover, future-in-law. Head shook incredulity, script material, improves Laura Rye. Pension portions Thomas invested guaranteed property tip Olivia. Guess, flop, non-existent Laura affirmed. Funds director covert, duped him too. Ego, obsession, blinded smarties, troom delusion. Laughed bitterly, mirthless. Astute, captivating mate con 20ish crook. Poetic nearly. Hour more dissecting Laura's trove, all, ledgers, snaps, cash stubs, falsified loans, Olivia's dossier prosecutor ready. DNA irrefutable 15 deceit keystone, regarded file, orderly dividers chronicling life demolition. 25 matrimony reduced incriminating stack passenger seat. Exhaustion title, thoracic pressure physical. Laura capable, whispered, publicly before 300 dismantle kin. Laura grasped arms steadfast. Rebecca here, grave, alternative, private clash, falsehoods, manipulation, alienating Daniel, deny till you doubt sanity, witnessed myriad, valid. Thomas manipulation virtuoso, charm evasive, thus inescapable, lies nullified, truth before impress, seekers, not vengeance mere accountability, Olivia incarceration, Thomas liable infidelity plus fiscal crime. Soul perpetual halt, inhaled stale confines, thought Daniel pallid determination, Sophia unknown progeny, 25 yielded liar from inception, correct, clear firm, soul path, ignited engine, proceed. Ceremony prep, concluding pre-ceremony spans life's most dreamlike, resumed poised groom, mom facade, detached oddly life, film observer, viewed self-jesting relatives, admiring kin attire, affirming victuals splendid. Inwardly tension, grief coil, outwardly maternal glow. Thomas thrived mingling arrivals, accolades accepted beaming assured, drew aside arm waist, stunning Rebecca, murmured ear ideal day, met eyes, loved half life plus, void frigid. Beamed retort, ideal, Daniel mirrored composure coerced, welcomed pals, posed attendance, role flawless, yet locks cross turf, steel mutual, allies, warriors awaiting cue, scheme straightforward, Laura drilled flawless. Arrived dawn, server guise, gear concealed overt, laptop linked vast display, ostensibly nostalgic Daniel infancy montage, unsuspected, pocket remote, moment, button press, my part, divorce docs attorney, prepped weak secret, Daniel unaware. Signed, sealed purse envelope, evidence drive 2, marriage terminated today irrevocably, not confrontation mere. Life's dawn anew, 4:05, front-seated, ensemble strummed, procession commenced. Thomas adjacent, hand squeeze seeming sincere, revulsion quiver withheld withdrawal, Olivia aisle end lace vision, luminous, exquisite, fraudulent utterly, crowd beamed, eyes locked Thomas front, instant, secrets shared, victory conspiratorial. Believed triumph imminent, deceptive tomorrow sealed, Daniel altar, visage inscrutable, Olivia joined, hand clasped, demeanor steadfast, scanned assembly, locked mine, subtle nod, cue, efficient initiated, love, devotion, loyalty platitudes. Irony choking. Wondered Thomas, Olivia attended or plotted next clandestine. Rite progressed. Vows exchanged meaningless, oaths shattered recurrent. Stomach roiled per mendacity, efficient pivotal, objections to union. Voice now or eternal silence, hush over 300, instant, pulse hammered ribcage, breakout feared, sense stares, deliberate inhale, rose, ascension, collective inhale 300, breeze, melody air thickened mute. Garden heads pivoted, confusion, astonishment, intrigue tangible, Thomas rigid, Rebecca what, hissed, arm seized, sit, seen, making, shook viper, like, gazed beyond, Daniel altar, pallid resolute, planned. Then Olivia, smile iced horror perplexed, regrets all, clear, steady voice guarding, carried, apology disruption, yet efficient queried objection, pause, words wait, indeed, reason mine, murmur wave. Olivia's dad, Justice Harrington, rising indignant thunder, Mrs. Hayes meaning, Justice Harrington, faced, daughter weds son falsely, you, all merit verity, purse remote extracted, Loris. Thumb red, hover, verity, Thomas spluttered, crimson, Rebecca, deranged, embarrassing Daniel, am I Thomas, calm pivot, tone glacial, you embarrassed Daniel, you paramour, pressed, ulterior screen life, initial crisp snap Thomas, Olivia living room clinch passionate. Yesterday witnessed Daniel me, eruption, shrieks, inhales, standings view, better, Olivia's mom chest, clutched ashen, yet more voice chaos, risen, not singular error, months enduring, screen shift, fresh image, omni entry, timestamp evident. Succession, meetings collage, lunches covert, lies bared. Olivia stammered denial, uproar drowned. Thomas upright, bellowing, fabricated. Montages, Rebecca breakdown. Am I, Thomas? Quiet. Explain then. Screen alter, statements bank. Close-up withdrawals suspect, pension forgeries, jewel receipt 15 grand, Olivia photo adorned bachelorette, crowd din subsided, horror mute, beyond scandal cheat, summer, spouse pilfered systematically family nest egg affair, funding proclaimed. An intended, son's bride, active 2, slide next, firm embezzlement proof, bills phantom, transfers, partners row 4, confusion fury, shift, final strike, prime deceit marital core, lies predated Olivia. Screen DNA, paternity probability 99. 999% bold massive, beneath 15, year smiling pretty, Sophia Carter, voice quavered 15 repressed ache, Thomas's daughter, concealed me, son lifetime, silence ensuing utter. 300 gawking betrayal comprehensive, devastating, gossips seasoned mute, that flawless awful hush quarter-century world incinerated, silence shattered solitary keen weep, Olivia's staggered visage ghostly versus gown pristine. Collapsed lace heap dreams fractured, sound spell. Broke garden chaos, yells, points, phones record. Olivia's mom dashed fallen, father justice disbelief, humiliation mask. Thomas momentary freeze, visage rage. Panic, horror swirl. Screen, me crowd stunned king colleagues ensnared, no falsehoods, eloquence escape, world meticulous public, irrevocable ruin, coward soul, fled, bolted, crowd, shoved, champagne tray toppled scramble parking. Life implosion, flight literal, Laura awaited. Sister server attired, oak large property. Border emerged. Petite ex got poise. Thomas passed, foot extended. Trip flawless. Thomas lawn, hard, slid feet suit costly. Departing Thomas, Laura casual, approached sprawled gasp. Daniel altar, left beside, arm firm. Olivia feet, mom sobbing support, finger shaky me. Point, you orchestrated, shrieked hysteric, ruin my existence. No, Olivia. Daniel cold clear, hysterics slice. Self-ruined, you, him, gestured father, Lori, aided up. Release, Thomas demanded, arm tug free Laura's hold. Can't, Tommy. Laura childhood moniker flinchin'. Deuce, licensed investigator, felonies suspected, fraud fiscal. But not you now, shoulder, glance, her business, uniform duo parted crowd calm, not Thomas fraud, civil attorney, here Olivia Harrington, officer quiet authority, eyes terror, wide no, whisper, arrest suspicion embezzlement, wire fraud, officer proceeded, partner arms gentle cuffs, click loudest ever, Olivia crumble, not humiliation mere, wedding null, legal real, life terminated. Police led weeping Olivia, parents horror stunned. Photogs fairy tale hired now downfall captured, flashes incessant, crowd dispersed, some swift disaster, avoid, others lingered shock. Huddles, phones aloft record, chaos midst, strength ebbed, Daniel held. Over mom whisper finally surveyed planned day ruins mess nightmare yet months first breathed free if still here favor massive like video comment 2 below signals support companionship journey encouragement immense comment 2 proceed aftermath hours 3 post blast blur lights flashing talks subdued painful wedding dismantle never police statements Olivia patrolled riven, gown absurd tragic sunset glare. Thomas question, released, vanished, car entered, drove wordless me. Son, and you, a Daniel queried, warmth flicker old, unsure, honest, numb merely, weeks ensuing painful mess, tail media local sensation expected. Altar scandal, bride cuffed, groom dad deceit decades. Names, faces ubiquitous, phone ignored, homebound unless vital, accounting modest hit. Clients long time elsewhere quiet, notoriety uneasy, day post planned executed. Attorney office walked, purse docs divorce signed, evidence drive filed, proof mountain Thomas uncontested, settlement, home assets chunk fraud recompense retirement, not triumph reparation, Olivia evidence overwhelming plea. 2 years minimum security, restitution full, family repute tattered, Thomas fall hushed, complete no less, job lost, standing, respect all, small flat crossed, own, public rare, aftermath complex, Sophia. 2 weeks post letter, Emily Carter, Sophia mom, concise, apology pain past Thomas relation, Sophia news. Learned meet Daniel me desire. Letter sat 3 days, response, girl betrayal emblem living. Yet innocent, unasked, son's sibling, Daniel shown, read grim, meet want, immediate, sister, mom, deserves family remnant, call made, neutral, cafe quiet midway town, terrified, waited, napkin shredded frayed. Entered Emily ordinary, fatigue worn, secrets shoulder, slump, behind Sophia, breath caught, Laura right, Thomas eyes, keen dark captivated years ago, scared, uncertain, book shield, chest, instant, girl innocent victim, anger not hers, he's eternal. Meeting initial awkward, words clumsy, Daniel heart, blessed talked most, school, book, life, Thomas avoided, treated person, sister first, meet, I observed mainly, reconciling shy sweet with lie monumental. Tentative, built new, coffee again, lunch, Daniel so, Fia texted, shared films old, cuisine fiery, anticipated seeing, hearing, bright, humorous, compassionate, innocent wreckage parental, year elapsed. Rhythm new, unfamiliar settled, divorce final, media waned, scandals fresh, energy business rebuild, clients gradual return, sold home large ghost, yard, townhome smaller acquired, quiet, serene, mine. Daniel therapy months betrayal trauma flourished, corporate quit school return passion true, environmental design, crafted spaces lovely order beauty dirt, stone life metaphor own, dated woman wonderful librarian sincere gaze soul, world. And Sophia, life's part, dinner by, Sunday, Daniel so, via bond sibling real, tease hours chat, felt protective fierce love, betrayal symbol knows, Oe Mir, son sister, family odd way. Evening year post non, wedding, townhome living doorbell. Thomas unseen, unspoken since reception ruin flee. Diminished, aged, grayer, arrogance gone, weariness deep. Entry requested, hesitated, aside stood, therapy he, understanding deeds why, apologized, lies, betrayal, pain me Daniel Sophia. Listened, sincerity new, yet apology unerased deceit quarter, century, forgive Thomas said, meant surprised, not you, for me, anger burdensome, I met, trust never, back impossible, nodded, tears sheen. No whisper departed, night bed, prep reflected year. Prior woman, lilacs dirt, crouched, broken, lost, wish return, assure okay, pain not end, family presumed lie, shattered million pieces sunny noon. But Daniel so, Fiancée built, smaller, quieter, imperfect, honest, lies comfortable not, truth difficult, painful freeing, lost all, found real, first long, sufficed, gratitude story listen, similar endured, resonated any, thoughts comments share. Stories matter, more here like video, subscribe consider, kind selves see next. To expand this to 16K 19K words, I need to add much more detail. Let's continue expanding with new scenes. I remember the first time I met Olivia. It was at a family barbecue about 2 years before the wedding. Daniel had been dating her for a few months, and he was so excited to introduce her to us. She arrived in a sundress that fluttered in the breeze, her hair perfectly styled, carrying a bottle of expensive wine as a hostess gift. Thomas was immediately taken with her, too much so, in hindsight, he complimented her on her choice of vintage, engaged her in conversation about her career in design, and laughed at every one of her jokes. I thought it was just his sociable nature at the time, but looking back, there were signs even then. the way he lingered when handing her a plate of grilled vegetables, or how he offered to show her around the garden personally. Daniel beamed with pride, oblivious, while I felt a twinge of something I couldn't quite name. As the months turned into a year, Olivia became a fixture in our lives. She joined us for holidays, birthdays, and casual dinners. I tried to bond with her, sharing recipes or asking about her family, but our conversations always felt superficial. She'd smile politely, but her eyes would glaze over when I talked about my accounting work or the volunteer projects I did at the local community center. Instead, she'd light up when Thomas entered the room, asking him questions about his experiences in sales, his travels, his opinions on the stock market. "You're so insightful, Mr. Hayes," she'd say, touching his arm lightly. I dismissed it as admiration for an elder, but deep down it gnawed at me. One evening, about 6 months before the wedding, we had a family game night. It was supposed to be fun, board games, snacks, laughter. Daniel and I were teamed up against Thomas and Olivia. As the game progressed, I noticed how Thomas and Olivia seemed to have an unspoken connection. They'd exchange glances, finish each other's sentences, and celebrate their wins with high fives that lasted a second too long. Daniel laughed it off, saying they made a great team, but I felt excluded, like an outsider in my own home. That night, as I lay in bed, I turned to Thomas and asked if everything was okay between us. He rolled over, kissed my forehead, and said, "Of course, Rebecca, you're overthinking things." But his words felt hollow. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, the preparations consumed me. I spent hours coordinating with vendors, selecting flowers, and finalizing the guest list. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen reviewing the menu when Olivia stopped by unexpectedly. She said she wanted to help with the place cards. Thomas was home early that day, working in his office. I heard them laughing together in the next room, their voices low and intimate. When I walked in, they pulled apart quickly, Olivia smoothing her hair, Thomas clearing his throat. "Just sharing a funny story from work," he explained. I nodded, but my stomach twisted. Adding a new scene, the day before the rehearsal dinner, I decided to surprise Thomas at his office with lunch. I'd packed his favorite sandwich and a thermos of soup. When I arrived, his secretary said he was out for a meeting. I called his phone, but it went to voicemail. On a whim, I drove to a nearby cafe where he sometimes met clients. There, through the window, I saw him with Olivia. They were sitting close, heads bent together over a tablet, her hand on his knee. I didn't confront them then. I told myself it was innocent mentoring. But it planted the seed of doubt that Daniel's words would later confirm. Expanding the discovery scene, as we crouched behind the shrubs, Daniel and I whispered furiously. I wanted to know every detail of how he'd found out. He told me about the first suspicion, a text message he'd glimpsed on her phone from T, saying, "Can't wait to see you." He thought it was a friend at first, but then he saw the heart emoji. He started paying attention, noticing how she'd excuse herself to take calls, how she'd come home smelling of Thomas's cologne. One night, he followed her to a hotel and saw Thomas's car in the lot. That's when he called Laura. New dialogue. "Mom, I felt like such a fool." Daniel confessed, his voice breaking. "I proposed to her thinking she was the one, but all along she was using me as a cover, and Dad. How could he do this to us?" I held him then, both of us hidden in the bushes, tears mixing with the dirt on our faces. "We'll make them pay," I promised, not with violence but with the truth. They think they're clever, but we've got the upper hand now. Expanding the plan, in the study that night, Laura joined us via video call for added security. We pored over the evidence, deciding what to reveal and when. Laura suggested including emails she'd hacked ethically, she assured, showing Thomas and Olivia planning trips disguised as business. One email read, "Can't wait for our conference next week, love you." We added that to the slideshow. We also discussed contacting Olivia's firm anonymously to tip them off, but decided to let the public exposure do the work. New scene, The rehearsal dinner was torture. Everyone was toasting the happy couple, but Daniel and I exchanged knowing looks. Thomas gave a speech about family unity that made me want to vomit. Olivia clung to his arm under the table. I saw it when I dropped my napkin. After, as guests left, I confronted Daniel in private. "Are you sure you can go through with tomorrow?" He nodded. "For us, yes. It's the only way to heal." The wedding morning, I woke even earlier at 4 a.m. and walked the garden alone, touching the flowers, remembering our own wedding day. Thomas and I had been so young, so full of hope. How had it come to this? I found a quiet spot and cried silently, mourning the life I was about to end. During the ceremony, before standing, I flashed back to memories: Daniel's birth, family vacations, the day Thomas proposed. It gave me the strength to rise. Aftermath expansion. The media frenzy lasted weeks. Reporters camped outside our house. I gave one interview to a local paper, sharing my side to control the narrative. Friends divided. Some supported us, others ghosted. I started therapy too, working through the grief. New scene, meeting Sophia for the second time. We went to a park. She brought drawings, she's artistic, and showed me one of a family. "I always wondered about my dad," she said shyly. Daniel and I shared stories of Thomas's better days, not sugarcoating, but giving her a balanced view. Emily and I talked separately, her apologizing again, me forgiving for Sophia's sake. A year later, Daniel's graduation from his new program. Sophia attended, cheering loudly. Thomas sent a card but didn't show. I felt peace. Adding examples. To illustrate the financial fraud, Laura explained specific instances, like a business trip. "That was actually a weekend getaway funded by a loan against my 401k for Olivia's embezzlement, fake invoices for design consultations that went to luxury spas." Extended emotional reflections. Throughout, insert paragraphs on feelings: the loneliness of suspicion, the empowerment of truth, the bittersweet rebuilding. This structure can reach the word count by fleshing out each part with descriptive language, dialogues, and new elements. I came across my husband in our family den with my son's intended bride just hours prior to the ceremony. I was moments from storming in to challenge him, but a faint stir in the passageway made me halt. It was my son, Daniel. His features were set like granite. He caught my eye and breathed, "Mom, I've been aware for some time, and it's more horrific than you can imagine. Welcome, folks. I'm truly appreciative that you've chosen to join me right now. Before I plunge into this account, I'd be delighted to learn which town you're viewing from. Go ahead and mention it in the comments. Okay, let's dive deep into this narrative." On the morning of my son's special day, I roused at 5 sharp. Rest had eluded me entirely. I assured myself it was merely the usual parental unease, the type that seizes any parent on such a pivotal occasion. I positioned myself in this same home workspace, fixated on balance sheets flickering on my display. I manage a compact bookkeeping service from the house. It's not opulent, but it financed Daniel's higher education and filled in the voids that my husband Thomas's earnings couldn't cover. The digits swam before me, my thoughts drifted elsewhere. Outside, darkness and stillness reigned, but I could already visualize the arrangement that would materialize on our backyard deck in our Nashville, Tennessee property in a matter of hours. Pale seats aligned impeccably on the turf. I'd invested the full spring season cultivating the arbor Thomas had assembled, adorning it with ivy vines I'd fostered from delicate sprouts. I'd examined the twinkle lights 5 times personally, confirming no light was dim. All had to be impeccable. Our child Daniel warranted a flawless event. 25 years bound to Thomas, 22 shaping Daniel. My whole being had been committed to this unit. I'd been the dependable guide, the coordinator, the recaller of health visits and celebrations, the enforcer of prompt settlements. Thomas was the enchanter, the social hub, the one universally admired. I was the bedrock he depended on, and for a considerable period that satisfied me. However, of late, an oddness had infiltrated. A muted gap had emerged between us. It manifested in how he'd cease conversation when I entered a space, in how his mobile was always slanted away from my sight. When I inquired if all was well, he'd simply dismiss it with amusement. Just occupational pressures, dear, he'd remark, a significant elevation impending. I elected to accept his word. What alternative existed? You don't discard a quarter. Century of shared passed over a mere intuition. The gentle latch of the workspace door pulled me back. Daniel appeared in his night clothes, holding a warm beverage. He seemed fatigued, with shadows beneath his eyes. At his point in life, he echoed my pragmatic disposition but possessed his father's attractive traits. "Mom, you've been alert for ages," he observed. "The occasion isn't until late afternoon. I just desire everything to be ideal for my young man." I responded, managing a lively smile as I powered down my machine. "Your father is still resting. He departed early," Daniel stated with an unusual inflection. He came closer and rested on the side of my workstation, suddenly appearing much more youthful. He spoke of collecting a token for Olivia's relatives, the Harringtons. I creased my forehead. That was unfamiliar to me. "Mom," he said, faltering, "can I put a question to you?" I rotated my seat to meet him. Under the bright beam of my desk light, his anxiety was plain. "What's weighing on you, honey?" He drew a long breath. "Do you think Olivia genuinely cares for me?" The query landed like a strike to my stomach. Olivia, his betrothed, motivated and lovely, a rising interior designer from a prosperous, long-standing clan with connections. On the surface, she was all we'd dreamed for Daniel, but I'd held my own misgivings. I'd seen how her attention would stray when Daniel discussed his interests, how she'd consult her device during group suppers. "Why pose that, darling? It's your big day." "I know, and it could be just final nerves," he grumbled, gazing into his drink. "But at times when she regards me, I sense she's peering past me, like I'm simply an item to mark on her route to the ultimate lifestyle." He stopped. "And of late, she's been with Dad frequently. They're always chatting about budgets, ventures. She says he's advising her." I longed to disclose the things I'd noticed as well. How Thomas's gaze pursued Olivia around the area. How he'd create pretexts to aid with her wrap or replenish her glass. How he knew her beverage preference exactly. Light foam and a hint of vanilla, no need to ask. Instead, I stretched out and gripped his palm. "Nerves before the vows are common, sweetie. Committing in marriage is the largest commitment you'll make." "It's not only nerves, Mom," he said, his voice cracking. He finally met my eyes, his filled with a torment that frightened me. "I believe she's attached to someone else." I went rigid, my veins turning cold. "What gives you that idea?" "Small signs," he murmured. "The way she sparkles when Dad contacts her, how she always asks after him first when she visits. I saw them in the yard yesterday, just conversing, and the way he viewed her, it wasn't the way a future dad-in-law should." I felt a heat rise in my neck. I kept my tone even. "Daniel, that's a very serious allegation." "I know," he said, shrugging, "and I hope I'm off base. Heavens, I hope." Before I could answer, the door swung open once more. It was Thomas. He was already attired in a sharp collared shirt and formal pants, appearing pristine as ever. "Well, here's my favorite pair," he declared, his smile not fully warming his eyes. He looked surprised to find Daniel there. "Important day, boy, you ought to be preparing." He directed his focus to me. "And you, Rebecca, you're going to tire yourself out. Olivia just phoned. She's arriving around 10 to go over some final placement chart adjustments." I saw Daniel's look harden. "What adjustments?" he asked. "Oh, you know, just ensuring her family isn't next to your cousin Henry after that economic dispute last Thanksgiving." Thomas said with a casual gesture, "You know how distinguished her relatives are. We should review it in private because of the delicacies and such. Of course, Daniel replied, his voice dull. We can't have improper seating. The strain in the room was dense enough to slice. I observed my husband and my son, and I knew in my depths that Daniel was correct. Something was profoundly, dreadfully amiss. After Thomas and Daniel exited my workspace, a chilly fear took hold of me. I was meant to have a concluding conversation with the decorator at 10:30, one I'd organized for weeks. I lifted the receiver, my hands slightly shaking, and called to postpone. I claimed a family urgency and needed to shift it. It was untrue. Reality was I'd freed my entire morning. I couldn't dispel Daniel's statements, nor the sickening sensation Thomas's pretended cheer had evoked. Something was unfolding in my residence today, and for the first time in 25 years, I planned to discover what. I passed the next couple of hours pretending to be occupied. I cleaned the already immaculate cooking area. I reorganized the bloom displays on the dining surface. Every noise caused me to startle. Every automobile passing made my heart pound. I felt like a performer in a drama, enacting the part of the joyful mother of the groom. Internally, I was knotted with worry. Right at 10, a sleek gray Audi rolled into our driveway, Olivia's ride. I watched from the kitchen glass as she alighted. Even in basic slacks and a top, she seemed ready for a photo shoot. She approached the main entry with the effortless poise of someone who belongs. My pulse echoed in my ears. I sneaked out the rear door and circled the building, stooping low behind the tall azalea bushes that edged our family den windows. I felt silly, like an undercover agent in my own dwelling. But the urge to know, to validate my fears or banish them, was overpowering. Through the wide picture window I could see them. Thomas had welcomed her, and they stood by the hearth, the place where we captured our yearly holiday images. He was serving her a beverage. I couldn't catch their words, but their postures spoke volumes. They were near, too near. His hand rested on her lower back. It was a relaxed action, one that could be brushed off, but it stayed there a moment too long. I tightened my fists, my nails pressing into my skin. 25 years we'd created a life in this place. We'd shared bedtime tales with Daniel on that very couch. We'd entertained numerous kin gatherings in that space, and now my spouse was there, touching another woman, my son's betrothed, on our son's wedding day. I was about to rise and burst in with rage, uncaring about the commotion. I disregarded the ceremony. I only cared about the burning disloyalty I was seeing. But then I spotted motion in the upstairs corridor, a shadow reflected in the glass. I looked more closely. It was Daniel. He was positioned at the top of the stairs, concealed in the dimness, watching them as well. The view of him, so motionless and devastated, stopped me in my tracks. This wasn't only my suffering, it was his. Down below, the situation had heightened. Olivia's hand was now on Thomas's chest. She leaned toward him, her head tipped back, a grin on her lips. She said something, and he laughed. It was a noise I hadn't heard from him in years. Easy, true, delighted. The way he used to chuckle with me when we were young and life felt full of promise. In that instant, I saw my husband change into someone I didn't know, someone vital in a way he hadn't been with me for a very, very long time. Then his hands were in her hair and they were kissing. It wasn't a brief touch, it was an intense, ardent kiss, the kind from films. My sight turned scarlet. A thunder filled my ears. I stepped toward the house, ready to tear the door off, ready to yell until my voice failed, and then a hand clutched my arm. I turned quickly, my heart jumping. It was Daniel. He had quietly left the house and come to locate me. His face was pale grayish, but his eyes glowed with a cold, firm resolve I'd never witnessed before. "Mom, don't," he whispered, his voice tense. "Not yet, Daniel." I struggled with the words. I couldn't even utter it. "I know what it is," he said. His voice was steady, though I could see his hands shaking. "Mom, I've known for weeks. The word emerged as a choked murmur. I stared at my son, the child I'd brought up, who now looked at me with eyes of a man who had experienced too much. We were still hunched behind the azaleas. The lovely blossoms I'd taken pride in were now a cover for our family's collapse. Inside the house, my husband and my son's bride-to-be had moved from the hearth to the couch. I couldn't stand to watch. I refused to accept it at first, Daniel said, his voice low and urgent. I kept inventing excuses for them. He's just being friendly. She's just uneasy about becoming part of the family. But it continued. The extended glances, the private discussions, the way she glowed whenever he was close. He paused. Slip, a hurtful reminder of a life that no longer was. She was supposed to gain a new mother figure, not a competitor. I mean, Olivia, why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice trembling with a blend of shock and a strange defensive anger. You shouldn't have had to bear this by yourself, because I needed evidence, he said, his jaw tight, and because he looked at me, his eyes far older than his 22 years. I wanted to provide them enough line to snare themselves. He took out his phone. His hands trembled a bit as he touched the screen. I employed someone, he confessed. What, I'm not foolish, Mom. After I saw them at lunch together a month ago, a lunch Dad said was a work session, and she said was an afternoon out with friends. I knew I wasn't imagining things. I needed the facts. He gave me the phone. I hired a private detective. My breath caught. An investigator. Daniel. Cost, don't fret about the cost, he said grimly. It was worth every penny. The first picture on the screen showed Thomas and Olivia entering the Grand High at downtown. The date stamp showed it was 3 weeks ago, a Wednesday afternoon, when Thomas was supposedly at an area business symposium. Second picture showed them leaving together 2 hours later, appearing flushed and rumpled. There are 19 different times, Daniel said softly as I scrolled through a collection of Betrayal. Photos of them in softly lit cafes throughout the city. Photos of them close against Thomas's car in a secluded garage. Photos of them smiling, holding hands, living a totally separate existence behind our backs. I felt ill. The extent of the deception was staggering. This wasn't a single error. It was a planned, ongoing romance. I stood up again. A new surge of anger swept over me. We're ending this, I said, my voice firm as metal. Right now, no. Daniel's voice was sharp, making me duck down again. Mom, believe me, I have a strategy, Daniel. This is crazy. We can't just allow the wedding. Yes, we can, he interrupted, his voice echoing with an authority I'd never heard from him before. And we will, Mom, consider it. If we face them now, what occurs? They'll refute it. They'll distort it. Dad will say you're being emotional, that you're misreading situations. Olivia will weep and act the innocent. They'll flip it all on us. He was accurate. I could already hear Thomas's smooth, soothing voice. Rebecca, you're exaggerating. She's a worried young lady, and I was just giving fatherly guidance. So what do you recommend? I whispered, my fury giving way to a cold, frightening clarity. Daniel's smile was something cold and unfamiliar. Public disgrace, he said, the word lingering between us, complete and utter ruin of their standing, legal outcomes. We don't just stop this, Mom. We ensure they can never do this to anyone else again. I looked at my son. When had he become so strategic, so unforgiving? Then I looked back through the window. I saw my husband, the man I'd loved and believed in for a quarter of a century, begin to undo Olivia's shirt on the couch where we'd built our family memories. And in that moment, I knew the woman I had been, the understanding, forgiving partner, was no more. She had perished right there in the earth behind the flowers I'd so carefully tended. Explain the strategy, I said. That night was one of the oddest in my existence. Thomas returned home as if nothing had transpired, inquiring about the final food setups. Olivia had left hours earlier, and he was the image of the affectionate husband and proud dad. He discussed his address for the reception, how honored he was by Daniel. The duplicity was so thick I could scarcely draw a breath. I just nodded and smiled, an empty husk of myself, while inside I screamed. After Thomas retired to bed, Daniel and I gathered in my home workspace. The door was secured. The shades pulled. It felt like a strategy room, and in many ways it was. On my desk lay the start of a folder of proof that would make a lawyer rejoice. "Tell me about that investigator," I said, examining a monitoring photo that turned my stomach. "Her name is Laura," Daniel said. "Laura Thompson." The name struck me like a dash of cold water. "Laura, my sister, Laura," Daniel nodded. I didn't know who else to reach out to. I knew she was in law enforcement for 20 years before retiring and starting her own investigation business. I knew she was clever and she'd be discreet. Looked a bit embarrassed. I also knew she never really liked Dad. I let out a short, harsh laugh that sounded more like a cry. My younger sister, Laura, we were close, but I hadn't shared with her the growing distance with Thomas. I had been too proud, too ashamed to admit my marriage might be failing. "I'll call her," I said, my voice heavy with feeling. Laura answered on the second ring. "Rebecca, it's after midnight. Is everything all right?" "No, Laura, nothing is all right." And then the barriers broke. I told her everything. What Daniel suspected, what we had seen that morning, the photos. I cried ugly, choked sobs for the first time that day. She listened patiently, her voice calm and strong on the other end. There was no shock or surprise, just a serious acceptance. "I'm not surprised, Rebecca," she said quietly when I finished. "I've seen the way he looks at that girl." I was hoping I was wrong. "Daniel told me about the photos," I said, wiping my eyes. "What else do you have? More than you probably want to know." Her voice turned businesslike. "I've been tracking their movements for 3 weeks. They meet twice a week like clockwork at the Grand Hyatt. He always pays in cash. They dine at upscale spots he'd never take you to. Last week, he took her to a luxury boutique. I felt that surge of rage again. Our money, the money I handled so carefully, the money that was meant for our later years, for our future. And Rebecca," Laura's voice was gentle, "there's more now, something larger. I've been delving into Thomas's finances, trying to trace where all this cash for the rooms and presents is coming from. He's been careless. What did you find?" I asked, fearing the answer. There was a long pause on the line. "It's not just Olivia," she said, her voice heavy. "It's not the first time. I found a series of regular monthly payments going back 15 years, always to the same person, a woman named Emily Carter. The name meant nothing to me. "Who is she?" I did some digging. "She was a junior staffer at his old company when Daniel was a kid. She left suddenly about 15 years ago. The payments started a few months after she left." Laura took a deep breath. "Rebecca, she has a daughter, a 15-year-old girl named Sophia. I ran a background check. The father isn't listed on the birth certificate, but I'd bet my credentials that Thomas is her father." The phone felt heavy in my hand. I couldn't breathe. A daughter, an entire other child, 15 years of lies, 15 years of a double life. The secret outings, the unexplained costs, the emotional distance. It all fell into terrible clarity. "I have to know for sure, Laura," I whispered. "I know," she said. "I'll take care of it. But Rebecca, you have to be ready. When this hits, it's going to be like a bomb going off." "I know," I said, my voice cold and hard. "That's exactly what we're relying on." The 24 hours before the wedding were a haze of calculated pretense. I moved through the arrangements like a phantom, my body on automatic while my mind raced. I smiled at family members. I approved the final seating with the planner. I even assisted Thomas with his necktie, my fingers brushing the fabric as I imagined tightening it around his neck. Every interaction was an act, every polite word a falsehood. Laura worked fast, she was a pro, and this was now personal. She told me she had a contact at a private lab. "It's risky, Rebecca, but if we can't get a clean DNA sample from Thomas, we can get a preliminary comparison to a sample from the girl." That night, after Thomas fell asleep, snoring softly beside me in the bed we'd shared for a quarter century, I crept out of the room. My heart pounded with every creak of the floor. I went to the bathroom and took his toothbrush from its holder. My hand shook so badly I almost dropped it. It felt like the ultimate violation, but what was this compared to the violations he had committed against me, against our family? I carefully placed it in a plastic bag and left it in the mailbox for Laura to pick up before dawn. The next day, As the house buzzed with the energetic chaos of florists and photographers, Laura called. "I've got more on the money," she said, her voice serious. "It's worse than we thought." We met in my car, parked on the street, away from the house, the only place I felt safe to talk. She opened a laptop and turned it toward me. On the screen was a spreadsheet, a confusing array of numbers and dates. "I did a full review of your joint accounts, your retirement funds, everything," she said, pointing to a highlighted column. "Look at the pattern. For years, Thomas has been making regular cash withdrawals, small amounts, 600 here, 800 there, never more than 100 at a time, always from different branches. I thought it was for his hobby," I said, stunned. "He always told me he was investing in vintage stamps, something that required cash deals." Another lie. "His hobby was named Olivia," Laura said dryly. "The cash for the hotel rooms, the fancy dinners, the gifts, that boutique necklace. He paid for part of it in cash, but that's not the worst part." She clicked another tab. "He's been taking loans out against your retirement plan." I stared at the screen. There it was in black and white, a series of loans taken out against the retirement account I'd so diligently contributed to from my small business. The account that was supposed to be our safety net, our security for old age. He had drained almost $75,000 in the last 20 months. How, I whispered, he would have needed my signature. "He forged it," Laura said quietly. "I compared the signature on the loan documents to your signature on your tax returns. It's a good forgery, but it's not yours." A wave of nausea hit me. This was beyond deceit. This was theft. He wasn't just breaking my heart, he was systematically dismantling our future piece by piece to fund his sordid affair. He was robbing me of the education fund we had built, of the life we were supposed to share. He was gambling with my entire future, and Olivia, I asked, my voice barely audible. "She's not an innocent victim," Laura said, her gaze hard. "I'll get to her, but first there's something else." She hesitated. Then she handed me a large manila envelope. "The preliminary DNA results came in this morning." My hands began to shake as I opened it. I scanned the page. The scientific terms blurred until I found the conclusion at the bottom. Probability of paternity 999%. I stared at the words until they were etched in my mind. Sophia Carter was Thomas's daughter. 15 years. 15 years of loving him, trusting him, building a life with him while he had another daughter, another family hidden in the shadows. I rested my head on the steering wheel, the cool leather against my hot forehead. I didn't cry. I was beyond tears. A strange, terrifying calm came over me. The pain was still there, a massive gaping wound in my chest. But now it was accompanied by something else, a cold, hard resolve. He wasn't just going to lose his wife, he was going to lose everything. Sitting in the car with my sister, that thin piece of paper in my hand felt heavier than a gravestone. It was the death certificate of my marriage, of the life I thought I had, a 15-year-old daughter. The words echoed in the silent car. How did you find her?" I finally managed to ask, my voice sounding distant and strange to my own ears. Laura's expression was a mix of pity and professional determination. "It started with the payments. Once I had Emily Carter's name, it wasn't hard to track her down. She lives just 2 towns over, Rebecca. About 25 miles away, 25 miles. For 15 years he had been living a secret life a short drive away. How many times had he told me he was working late? How many business dinners had he attended? How many weekend fishing trips had he taken? My mind spun as I mentally reviewed years of excuses and lies, each one now taking on a new sinister meaning. "I drove by the house yesterday morning," Laura continued, her voice soft. "I posed as a census worker. Emily opened the door, and behind her I saw the girl, Sophia. Rebecca, she's the spitting image of him. The same dark, sharp eye that first drew me to him all those years ago. The same smile, she's unmistakable. I imagined it. An innocent teenager who looked just like my husband. A sister my son never knew he had. The thought was so surreal, so monstrous that I couldn't fully process it. My family wasn't just broken, it was fraud, a carefully constructed lie that I had unknowingly helped maintain for more than half my life. Does Emily know about me, about Daniel? I asked. I can't say for sure, Laura admitted, but the way she lives, a nice home, a good school district, but no high-profile job, it's clear Thomas is her main financial support. She has every reason to keep quiet. He wasn't just paying child support, Rebecca. He was funding her entire lifestyle with my money, with our money, my business earnings, our joint savings, the money he stole from our retirement. The betrayal was so deep, so layered. I felt like I was drowning. It was a systematic plunder of my life's work, my trust, and my future. I handed the DNA report back to Laura. Add it to the rest of the evidence, I said. My voice, devoid of emotion, was numb. The shock was so profound it had short-circuited my ability to feel anything but a cold, heavy emptiness. I thought about that girl, Sophia. What kind of man tells his daughter he can't acknowledge her? What kind of man raises one son in the open while keeping another child in the shadows? The cruelty, not just to me and Daniel, but to this innocent girl, was astonishing. And what about Olivia? I asked, needing to shift my focus to direct the anger that was starting to melt the ice in my veins. Laura nodded, her expression hardening again. Right, Olivia, let's talk about the bride-to-be. She turned the laptop back to me and opened a new file. She's not just involved with your husband. She's been diverting funds from her design firm. The words took a moment to sink in. She's an associate at a top firm downtown, Laura explained, showing documents that looked like internal financial records. She's been inflating expense claims, creating bogus bills for imaginary suppliers, and channeling the money into a personal account. They're not large sums each time, but it's consistent. In the last year, she's taken over $250,000. I gasped. $250,000, and I can link some of that money directly to gifts for Thomas, Laura said, showing me a bank transfer, followed by a credit card statement that showed the purchase of a $1,500 watch. She was stealing from her colleagues to buy gifts for her lover, who was stealing from his wife to buy gifts for her. It's the most perfectly repulsive cycle of deceit I've ever seen. So Olivia wasn't just a homewrecker. She was a criminal, a thief, and